Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On this Sunday afternoon, welcome to AMS Live. My name is Boy. I'm standing alongside the Polderbaan, where until a few minutes ago departures were taking place. However, I had a look at the current runway usage, and it seems now that this Airbus A330-200, that is 17 years old, from KLM off to Sint Maarten, is going to be the last airplane to depart, and it seems now that the runway is going to be used for landings instead. Now I'm at the beginning of the runway, where you can see the airplanes come if they are departing from the main platform area, but when the planes are going to land on this runway, we are standing at the far end of the runway. It's one of those days where there isn't a lot of wind. If you look in the water, there's hardly any movement. However, if you look in the distance to the chimneys of, what is it? I think it's an electricity plant, a power plant. There is some wind. Wind is blowing from the northwest. But for some reason, Schiphol decided to change the runway usage a few minutes ago. According to the app I'm using for the runway usage, this runway is now in use for landings, together with runway 27, and runways 24 and 18 left are now in use for departures. So I had flight radar filtered for departing traffic from Amsterdam, but I'm going to switch it now to arriving traffic and see if any planes are underway. For now it seems that the planes that are going to land are heading for runway 27. However, there is a Vueling A320 coming in from Alicante that might be coming this way. But yeah, it's one of those days that Schiphol decides to switch it up. You think they're going to use the runways in one configuration, but they decide to change it and do something differently. So although we will be able to see the planes taxi back to the gate from the front row, for now it seems that we'll have to wait for landing traffic and we'll not be seeing any departures anytime soon. However, this might all change, of course. No institution is as quick to change as Schiphol when it comes to runway usage, but yeah, we'll have to see how this afternoon is going to evolve. YouTube fan, good afternoon. Wendy, good afternoon. Ina, guten Tag. Herzlich willkommen. Good to see you guys again. So it's a bit quiet at the moment. Not what I was hoping for. I think, well, I'm not sure yet what the Vueling A320 is going to do. It does seem to be turning now inland, but unless it's doing a very short final, it might also fly further to the east to land on runway 27. Typical. Wind is blowing from the northwest, 310 degrees 4 knots. Temperature 6 degrees centigrade, or approximately 42 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's not cold. Yeah, if you look to the wind sack over at the fire station, it is still blowing from the direction in which you would expect that they are going to use the runway for departures, because you will be having headwind taking off into the north. Of course, no one says that it's going to stay this way for the rest of the afternoon, but for now this is the current configuration. I'll keep a close eye on it. Of course, at this location where I'm standing at, it's good for both departures and for landings, although for landings it's more optimal to be further down the road. If I'm turning around the camera to the north, here you can see the regular spottersplaats where the parking lot is and where all the people can look at the airplanes. It's the official place where you can do plane spotting. Normally when planes are landing on this runway, I'll be standing even further down the road, further up ahead, so that you're closer to the point where they touch down. The downside is that you cannot follow the airplanes taxiing back to the main platform area, and the upside of standing over here is that you can do that. However, you're a bit further removed from the place that they touch down. Now my camera has 20 times zoom, so we will be able to see something. But for landings it would have been more optimal to stand a little bit further down the road. We are still waiting for the first plane to arrive. I'm thinking the A320 from Vueling, coming in from Alicante, might turn further and might be coming this way. Should be somewhere over there. Although when there's only sky in my field of view, my camera quickly loses focus. So I need to have a bit of land in the field of view. Visibility is good. It's cloudy, but not hazy. Visibility otherwise is good. The planes will probably become visible first when they turn on their landing lights. And I can confirm that the Vueling flight 1377 from Alicante is going to land over here. It's also in the Vueling Loves Barcelona livery according to Flight Radar. So this is a 6-year-old Airbus A320-200 that we're expecting. 6 years old, delivered in September 2016. Hopefully we will see a change in use of this runway back to departures, because where I'm standing at, it's most optimal for that. But we will be able to see the planes taxi back towards the the main platform area. Meanwhile, here is the A320 from Vueling. Now my camera has difficulty focusing on it. Let me try if pressing the touchscreen of my camera improves it, but it doesn't seem to do that. Let me tilt down, tilt up again. There we go. Okay. Well, it's not optimal, as I said, unfortunately. YouTube fan informing us that the Emirates A380 is due to land in 12 minutes, but yeah, as I was just about to say, as it's coming in from the east, it's most likely going to land on runway 27, unless of course they change the runway anytime soon. There is a second plane coming this way to land. It's a Boeing 737-700 from KLM, flight 1444, coming in from Aberdeen. That's a 13-year-old plane delivered in January 2010. So unfortunately this is the most zoomed in that I can go with my camera from over here. Nice and soft touchdown. In the Vueling Barcelona livery. Now the next plane coming in from Aberdeen from KLM is about to touch down. And there is a third plane coming in, an A320 from Air France coming in from Paris Charles de Gaulle. That's a 20-year-old plane delivered in December 2002. It's a little 737-700 with the small fuselage. And the Vueling A320 still visible ahead of it in the distance on the left hand side. Yorkshire Biker, good afternoon. All other viewers who have meanwhile joined us, welcome to AMS Live on this Sunday afternoon. My name is Boy. Now unfortunately, as I was setting up, Schiphol decided to change the runway configuration. All day it had been departures from 36 left, and a few minutes before I was about to go live, they changed it to landings on runway 18 right. So we're not optimally located over here to capture arrivals. On top of that, runway 27 is also being used for landings at the moment. Now runway 27 is always a secondary runway, so I'm expecting that it's only a temporary configuration. I'm hoping, of course, that they'll change back to using this runway for departures after an hour or so. There is another plane coming in. It's an A319 from British Airways, flight 434, coming in from London Heathrow. That's a 22-year-old plane, delivered in February 2001. Meanwhile, let me see if I can show you. Where is it? It's already gone behind the trees, I think. Oh no, there it is. There's the A380 landing on the other runway. The runway where unfortunately a couple of weeks ago my tripod fell over through the wind. But you are optimally located there to see landings on that runway. The downside of being over there is that the runway is typically not in use throughout the entire day unless the wind is really hard, and specifically from the west. Meanwhile, the British Airways A319 has its lights on and is becoming visible. So yeah, there's little wind today, which is why they can also do the runway change. Wind is, at least according to the latest meteorological update from Schiphol, the METAR was blowing from the northwest. So basically these planes are having a little bit of tailwind as they land right now. However, it's only a few knots, so that's why instead of departures in headwind, they now have landings in tailwind. I'm curious to see how long this configuration is going to stay active. Meanwhile, there's also a 777-200 from KLM from Guayaquil coming this way. KLM flight 751, a 19-year-old 777-200, delivered in September 2003. Let me go back to the camera. Goedemiddag Jan, goedemiddag Gosse, good day Bargav, good afternoon Erik. Ah. Koenie, good afternoon. Remco, good afternoon. So here's the 777-200 coming in from Guayaquil. Quite some spray from the showers we had earlier this day. Runway is still wet. If you just tuned in and you're wondering, hey, why aren't these departures? Schiphol let me down, unfortunately. As I was setting up, they changed the runway and they went the complete opposite. So instead of departures, they are now doing landings on this runway. And to make matters worse, it's not the only runway in use for landings, but 27 is also open for landings. So we're not even going to get all the landing traffic over here. In fact, at the moment, most of the traffic that is landing on runway 27. And again, it's typical Schiphol, because if you look at the wind sack over at the fire station, the wind is still blowing from the northwest to be exact, but since the wind is not very hard, it's calm, they decided to switch it up. I'm hoping, of course, that Schiphol will decide to change the runway again anytime soon, but for now we are still out of luck. And yeah, Eric, I think you're right, they will probably switch it up again when outbound becomes more busy. Although they do use 2 runways now for departures, 24 and 3, no, 18 left. Exactly. So 2 runways for departures and 2 for landings in use at the moment. There does seem to be a new plane coming this way from KLM, an Embraer E2 195 coming in from Stavanger. It is making its way over here. There are a few more planes coming this way. If I look to the southwest of the Netherlands, over the most southwest province of Zeeland, there are 3 planes making their way over here. Of course, we'll have to wait and see if they're going to come this way. The E2 Embraer 195 coming in from Stavanger is a new plane, only 1 year old, delivered in April 2021, almost 2 years old. René, goedemiddag, good afternoon. Meanwhile, there's some inbound traffic for runway 27. By the looks of it, an A321neo from Turkish coming in from Istanbul. Meanwhile, I can see the landing lights going on the Embraer, but it's a little difficult to capture it immediately, although maybe you guys can see it. It's just me that I'm not seeing it. Oh yeah, there it is. You can see it much better on the big screen than on my 3-inch screen on the camera. So another Embraer from KLM coming in from Turin. Not sure where it's going to go to. It's already quite low. Might make a short traffic pattern and land on this runway. So fingers crossed that Schiphol is going to switch it up again and that they're going to use this runway for departures again, as they had been throughout the day. Ooh. massively big engines on those E2 Embraer 195s. Schiphol, KLM has a few of them. I don't think they're all in use at the moment, because I think there were some issues also with these engines. Meanwhile, I can see the next Embraer coming this way. It is in fact making a short... It is doing a short traffic pattern. And coming in... let me see, where is it? Oh, it's already over there. So this Embraer coming in from Turin. So there are three more planes by the looks of it, coming this way. The first one is EasyJet flight 21355 coming in from Geneva. That's an A320-200, 7 years old, delivered in March 2015. There's a 737-800 from KLM, flight 1414 coming in from Lyon. That's a 737-800, 23 years old, delivered in August 1999. And there might be a third plane coming this way, although it's still at 7,000 feet, so I'm not sure yet where it's going to go to, but most likely landing on Polderbaan. KLM flight 1700 coming in from Madrid, another Embraer E2 195, 2 years old, delivered in February 2021. Ryan, welcome to the stream all the way from Indonesia. Zampon, Nicolas, Roshan, Geraldo, good afternoon. Welcome to you all. Welcome to AMS Live, and unfortunately No departures, as was in the thumbnail. As I was setting up, Schiphol decided to turn the runway usage around, and we're now waiting for landing airplanes. All day this was a runway used for departures, and as I was setting up, they changed it, and they haven't changed it back yet. I'm hoping they might still. Roshan asks if I am going to capture the departure of the A380. Well, that's probably difficult because with the current runways in use, I'm expecting it to depart from runway 18 left. So that's diametrically on the opposite side of the airfield. So I probably won't be able to see it from over here. I might be able to capture a glimpse of it if it is taking off from runway 24. That is also being used at the moment for departures, but the current location is not optimal for capturing departing traffic. I think it's scheduled to depart at 2:30 or so. In that case, of course, we can still see if we can capture a glimpse of it. Meanwhile, the Boeing 737-800 from KLM coming in from Lyon has become visible. Just a speck on the horizon still, so I will turn around the camera shortly. Ah, Ina, I think I had my lavalier mic off. Good that you mentioned it, because that will probably explain the fluctuating sound quality of the voiceover. It was still in testing configuration, which I always do before setting up, checking if both mics are using and only the camera microphone was on. Apologies for that. Just a matter of switching on a knob. Meanwhile, the next plane is touching down. Which is an E2 Embraer 195 coming in from Madrid from KLM. Massive engines compared to the fuselage size and plane size in general. Nay, asking where I'm standing. I am standing alongside the Polderbaan, although not at the official spotters location, but more towards the threshold for departures. There's a road you can follow, and at the end of the road there's a gate and a field of grass, and I'm standing in that grass field. Now normally I would stand on the other side of the official spotters plots to capture landing traffic more optimally. However, as I was saying before, the runway usage got changed as I was setting up. Basically I was just set up and then I saw that instead of using the Polderbaan for departures, as was the case throughout the day, they decided to make it a landing runway. If I look at the app that is depicting the current runway usage, I do have good news relatively speaking. So while this runway is still in use for landings, it is now the only runway in use for landings. So no more landings taking place on runway 27, which means that all inbound traffic will land on this runway. However, of course, where I'm standing right now, it's not the best location to capture the landings, but who knows, maybe they will switch it up again. There's hardly any wind. If I look at the fire station, the wind sack is now almost completely down. It is blowing still. It is blowing from the northwest, but it's only a few knots. So these planes can land with tailwind easy when the wind is like today. Although, if you look at the chimney of the power plant in Amsterdam West, was it this one? No, where's the... There you go. You can still see that there is some wind. Also, if you look at the windmills, they are spinning. So we have wind from the northwest. But that's no reason for Schiphol to decide that today this runway now is used for landings. Coming in, and let me turn around the camera so you guys can see it as well, is a Transavia Boeing 737-800 coming in from Kittilä, which is in Finland. This plane is 7 years old and was delivered in April 2015. You can still see a little bit of spray when the thrust reversers are applied. We have had some showers in the morning and overnight, although for now and for the upcoming hours it's supposed to stay dry. We are expecting precipitation again in the evening and in the night. So maybe tomorrow, although I'm not sure yet. Earlier predictions for Monday were that it was about to rain, maybe even some wintry precipitation, hail or wet snow. It is getting colder a little bit in the coming week. For now it's 6 degrees centigrade, so about 42 degrees Fahrenheit. And although there are some clouds, it is expected to stay dry for now. Let me turn around the camera. The next plane is about to touch down. That is a Ryanair Boeing 737-800 coming in from Malaga, 14 years old. You know, the next plane has already touched down. It is a little bit back to back at the moment. Another 737, this one from KLM by the looks of it. Coming in from Copenhagen. 737-800. 15 years old. And with this speed it's going to overtake the Ryanair that was taxiing rather slowly. KLM 737 seems to be in more of a hurry than the Ryanair 737. Safian, good afternoon. And Ilma... Oh, I'm so sorry, my Russian alphabet knowledge is very limited. But welcome. Pepi Pito, good afternoon, welcome. Zampon, good afternoon, welcome. Now folks, I'm sorry to say that Schiphol switched the runway usage on me as I was setting up. The entire day this runway was in use for departure, so I was setting up at the beginning of the runway when the planes take off. And 5 minutes before I was done setting up, I looked at the runway usage app because I thought it was a little bit quiet, and to my surprise I saw that Schiphol decided that the Polderbaan was going to be used for landings. Now the silver lining is that at the moment this is the only runway in use for landing, so all incoming traffic is landing in front of us. But as you can see, we're not standing on the front row when it comes to seeing them actually touch down. We can see them taxi back towards the main platform area, better than at the location I normally stand at for capturing landings. So I'm hoping things might still change. Meanwhile, and let me turn around the camera, another Vueling airplane is coming this way. Another A320neo coming in from Malaga, and this one in the We Love Places livery. So we've had the We Love Barcelona livery before, and now we've got the We Love Places livery. And meanwhile, fingers crossed, let's hope that they will change the configuration back to departures for this runway, because that is much better visible from over here. Let's see how that We Love Places livery looks like when it passes us by in a moment. Ah, there it is. Look at that. Looks like children's drawings all over the airplane. Very nice. Alright, let's see. 2 more planes coming this way by the looks of it. The first one is an Air France A320-200 coming in from Paris Charles de Gaulle, flight 1740. That is a 10-year-old plane delivered in April 2012, and it's followed by an A320neo from Lufthansa, flight 2304, coming in from Munich. And that is a 2-year-old plane delivered in June 2020. More planes are underway. Sharda, good afternoon. And all other people, welcome to the stream. Welcome to AMS Live. My name is Boy. Now, unfortunately, we are not seeing departures as was in the thumbnail and in the title of the stream as I made the stream in YouTube. Back then, this was still the runway in use for departures, as it had been throughout the entire day and also the last couple of days. At the moment it is used for landings. The upside is that it's the only runway in use for landings at the moment. The downside is we are not at the most optimal location to capture landings when they land on this runway. But we can see them taxi by rather good. Although not exactly what I had in mind when I was going out here today. The next 2 planes are already visible for me visually. Can you guys see them as well? It's always a bit difficult to see what you guys are seeing on my screen. Let me turn around towards my laptop. Yeah, you can see both of them. Martin, good afternoon. Welcome to the stream. So this is the Air France A320 coming in from Paris Charles de Gaulle. Now, even though these aren't departures, if you are liking what you're seeing and you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel. You'll be able to turn on notifications so that whenever I go live, you receive a notification. It also helps me to reach more people like you and me who like content like this. Here, the Lufthansa A320neo coming in from Munich. And the engines appearing to melt into the ground. Of course, an optical illusion. Two more planes underway. So let me quickly turn around the camera. The first one about to touch down and the second one visible in the distance. Lights are already on. Nice that they portray people on the tails of the aircraft. I think we also saw one of a sports coach, I think it was. Don't remember exactly who it was, but I think they are depicting several faces on the tails of the aircraft from Norwegian. Meanwhile, the next plane is about to touch down. Top Air Portugal. Meanwhile, the next plane has already touched down. It is inbound traffic back to back at the moment. It's a 737-800 coming in from Cairo, from Egypt Air, 5 years old. Meanwhile, the next plane is about to touch down. It is a Swiss A220 coming in from Zurich. The thrust reverser is clearly audible. So this plane is 5 years old, was delivered in April 2017. And the next plane to arrive is a KLM 737-800 coming in from Vienna. And that is 14 years old. So I'm trying to multitask by operating the camera and also look on my phone at flight radar. Beautiful planes, these A220s. And again we have a KLM that's in a hurry because the 737 from Vienna is already close by. Stephen Morley, good afternoon. Marissa, goedemiddag, good afternoon. Good to see you all. Lindsay from Leicester, Sonic Boom Country. Welcome to the stream. So, for those of you just tuning in, unfortunately, as I was setting up, the people of Schiphol decided to change the runway usage. All day this runway had been in use for departures, so I was expecting to do another day of departures. That's why I was setting up over here, because this is the most optimal location to capture departures from Polderbaan. Now, 5 minutes before I was completely set up, I had a look at my phone and saw that they changed it and decided that the runway I'm standing at was to be used for landings. First, they also decided that runway 27 would be used, so not all traffic would come this way. Now this is the only runway in use, at least last time I checked. Let me quickly have a look. It is still the only runway in use for landings. Qatar runway 24 is now in use for departures. So the upside is all landing traffic is still coming this way. The downside, of course, being that this is not the most optimal location to capture landing traffic on this runway. Meanwhile, we have a little guard watching over us. The wind is calm. If you look at the wind sack over at the fire station here at the Polderbaan, there is a little bit of wind. It is blowing from the northwest. Planes are now landing in the southern direction, so they have crosswind and a little bit of tailwind, but it's only 4 knots in total, so nothing to write home about. Also, if you look at the chimney in the distance from the power plant in Amsterdam West, you can still see that there is actually wind. And technically speaking, this runway configuration doesn't make a lot of sense, although with the prevailing wind, yeah, it doesn't really matter which runway you use, because there's hardly any wind that you need to take into account. So for now, this is the only runway in use for landings. I'm still hoping that they will change the configuration back to departures later, but we'll have to see. And another one of the many Boeing 737s from KLM touching down. And the next plane to land is already close by. It is an Embraer 175 from KLM coming in from Nice, and it is 5 years old, delivered in January 2018. And the 737 we saw land just now was a 737-800 from KLM, 16 years old and coming in from London Heathrow. Meanwhile, the next plane just touched down. Another little Embraer from KLM. Coming in from Venice, 6 years old. As a few seagulls are stirring a row. City hopper seems to be in a hurry. All the planes that taxied by very quickly so far have been from KLM. Don't know if that's coincidental or not, but another Embraer coming in, an E190 coming in from Oslo, also from KLM, 13 years old, delivered in June 2009. And another Embraer behind it, an E175 coming in from Bordeaux, France, 6 years old. Meanwhile, the sun seems to be coming out a little bit, which is nice. So after the Bordeaux Embraer, we have an A319 from Lufthansa coming in from Frankfurt. An A319, 26 years old, delivered in February 1997. Hey Jeffrey, good afternoon, welcome to the stream. Thanks for your kind words about the camera work. I'm definitely enjoying the new tripod I bought earlier last week. Makes for much smoother following of airplanes. However, as you probably noticed a few times before, the handling bar, I ran into my coat for a few times now. So I wasn't expecting to use the camera in the opposite direction as I'm forced to at the moment. So I have to get out of the way for it not to stick onto my coat where the zipper is. Otherwise the smooth tracking becomes a little bit hampered. So yeah, wind is blowing from the northwest, only a few knots, 4 or so. So as you can see in the background by the chimneys, these planes are now landing with tailwind. But since the wind is so calm, they can do that. But it was an unforeseen surprise that Schiphol pulled on me today. But we'll make the best of it, of course. Here is the Lufthansa coming in from Frankfurt, the Airbus A319. Temperature wise, it's 6 or 7 degrees centigrade, which is 42 to 44 degrees Fahrenheit. Earlier we saw some spray when the thrust reversers were applied. The runways are still damp. We had some precipitation in the morning, also overnight last night. I think it's about to rain again in the coming night. For now it's still dry. Clouds in fact seem to be opening up a little bit compared to when I was starting with the stream. You can see some patches of blue sky and some friendly clouds. Although I am currently, as you can see, still standing in the shade. Further up where the end of the runway is, the sun is out already, so hopefully that will come this way also. Yeah, we're waiting for what's going to come next. Let me also see if the runway usage has changed in the meantime, but unfortunately it hasn't. Yeah, it has insofar as that there are now 2 runways in use for departures, runway 24 and 18 left. So 18 right is still the only runway in use for landings. So that's good news in that all landing traffic will come this way. If you're still around, see you later, Marissa. Thanks for joining us again. See you soon. So what I can see is that there are a couple of planes coming in and also a heavy. Finally, we haven't seen any heavies yet today, as far as I can remember. Yeah, we did see the last plane to depart before the runway was switched to become a landing runway was the departure of A330 to Sint Maarten. But there is a Boeing 767 from LATAM Cargo coming this way, inbound from Miami. That's number 2 most likely. Number 1 is an A319 from EasyJet coming in from London Gatwick. That's a 17-year-old plane delivered in January 2006. The 767-300 from LATAM Cargo following it, inbound from Miami, is young, 14 years old, relatively young for a 767, delivered in May 2008. So the A319 has just become visible. Don't see the 767 yet. Let me see if I can focus on the airplane already. It's not optimally focused by the looks of it. That's better. The 767 also becoming visible in the background. Let's turn around the camera back to the runway threshold where the LATAM cargo 767 is about to touch down. Beautiful machine. Meanwhile, Transavia Boeing 737 is landing, coming in from Porto in Portugal, 23 years old. And the next plane I will aim the camera at is going to be Royal Jordanian, an A320 coming in from Amman after just over 4.5 hours of flight. That is a 10-year-old plane delivered in October 2012. So folks, if you just tuned in and you're thinking, hey, these are landings and why aren't they departures, as was in the title of this stream, Schiphol decided to change up the runway usage as I was setting up, or in fact as I was almost done setting up, there were still planes coming this way. The first plane that you see if you wind back to the beginning of the stream is the last plane that took off while the runway was still in use for departures. An A330 from KLM to Sint Maarten. And just a few minutes before that, they decided that this runway was going to be used for landings, even though there is wind coming in from the northwest. And these planes are now landing in southern direction. So they have crosswind and tailwind, but it's only 4 knots or so. All day this runway had been in use for departures, so I was expecting it to be continued this afternoon. Meanwhile, an EasyJet A319 just touched down. See if the Royal Jordanian Airbus doesn't step on the gas. It's about to be overtaken. Eric asking until how long I will be standing out here for today. To be honest, I don't know. At the moment there's a lot of inbound traffic still. I can see 4 or 5 the airplanes coming in back to back. So as long as there's still some action to be seen, I will be staying around. Of course, if there would all of a sudden be rain coming this way, that might change, but for now I'm good where I am. Ina remarking that the new tripod head has a positive effect. It sure has. It's definitely a next step up compared to what I was using earlier. Now folks, even though these aren't departures, if you still like what you're seeing and you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me to reach more people like you and me who also like content like this. It also allows you to turn on notifications so that whenever I go live in the future, you receive a notification. And if you feel like it and have the time, can join us for future streams. Meanwhile, you might be hearing some bangs in the distance. And apparently, let me see if I can show you the flashing lights. Can you guys see? There is some firework being set off. In the middle of the screen you can see the flashes, and you can probably hear the bangs as well. Don't know why. Could also hear some sirens, so maybe the police is already underway to see if they can arrest the perpetrators. Meanwhile, the next plane has already switched on its lights and has become visible. So there's a slew of airplanes coming this way, so I won't be having a lot of time to see all the details, so let me go ahead just already. First to land is an A320neo from Pegasus Air coming in from Istanbul, 4 years old, delivered in April 2018. It's being followed by an EasyJet A319 coming in from Berlin. That is 14 years old, delivered in December 2008. And number 3 is going to be a flight from KLM, an E2 Embraer 195 coming in from Naples, Italy. 1 year old, delivered in January 2022. Meanwhile, Ellie checking in from the Bahamas. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to AMS Live. This is an A320neo from Pegasus Air, coming in from Istanbul, Turkey. And while the fireworks keep going in the distance, you can probably hear the bangs. So let me turn around the camera. We have the next two planes already visible. The Embraer, the EasyJet A319 coming in from Berlin. And the Embraer E195, the E2, just playing peekaboo, or hide and seek I should say. There it is, the enormous engines. next plane about to touchdown. And a flight of birds in the foreground. You might also have heard it. It's making a particular noise. So looking back towards the main platform area, we can see the planes we saw land just now, taxiing back. They still have some way to go because they have to go around the middle of the 3 north-south oriented runways because it is closed for maintenance. 2 more planes coming in, narrow bodies, and then there's also a 777 coming in. Let me quickly have a look. This is an Embraer 190 coming in from Porto, Portugal, 9 years old, delivered in October 2013. The E2 Embraer 195 that we're about to see in the background is coming in from Florence, Italy, is 1 year old, delivered in March 2021. And number 3 to land is a Boeing 777 freighter from China Cargo Airlines coming in from Shanghai. Brand new, delivered in April last year. And there is a Dreamliner from Kenya Airways coming in from Nairobi, a 7878 coming in after that. That is 7 years old, delivered in May 2015. So there are 2 heavies inbound, back to back. After a few narrow bodies, the last one. The last one, this one, the Embraer 195, the E2. Meanwhile, the heavies are also coming closer and closer by. So in the foreground we have the triple coming in from Shanghai, and in the background we have the Dreamliner coming in from Nairobi from Kenya Airways. Brand new airplane. Still shiny. Quickly back to the end of the runway with the camera because the Kenya Airways Dreamliner is also ready to touch down. Meanwhile, one of the Schiphol Scarecrow vehicles in the foreground, bird controllers. So everybody who joined us just now, welcome to the stream, welcome to AMS Live. My name is Boy, and on this Sunday afternoon I was hoping to do a stream with departures. However, Schiphol decided that they were going to use this runway for landings instead, even though there's a little bit of tailwind for the planes now landing. If you wind back to the beginning of the stream, you can just witness the last plane of the day that took off while the runway was still used for landing departures. After that, the runway was designated for landings instead. Last time I checked, this is the only runway in use for landings. That's the silver lining, but obviously normally I would stand much further in the distance looking where the camera is aimed at, so that you can see landings much closer by. So we have to make do with the current location, and we are seeing the first queen of the day from Suparna Airlines coming in from Hefei, and that is somewhere in China, according to flight radar. This Boeing 747-400 is 25 years old and was delivered in January 1998. More planes are coming in after that. So don't go anywhere. And even though these are not departures as was mentioned in the title of this stream, if you are still enjoying yourself, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Not only does it allow you to turn on notifications so that whenever I go live, and hopefully with the right runway configuration so that you can see what is advertised on YouTube, it also helps me to reach more people like you who also like content like this, making the community bigger and bigger. So Suparna Airlines coming in from China, Hefei, a 25-year-old airplane from 1998, previous millennium, and the first queen of the day. Flaps are already being elevated, retracted again. And it still has some way to taxi back to the cargo part of the main platform area, which is alongside the Polderbaan, runway 24/06. And the airplane first has to taxi around runway 18 center, 36 center, because that's closed for maintenance until somewhere in April, at least according to the planning, which means that they first have to go below the runway and then up again a little bit to cross the highway A4 over to the platform area for cargo. In the meantime, to my left, another Transavia 737 just landed. However, you guys will have seen enough of those, so instead I've preferred to keep following the Queen a little longer. In the background I can make out the tail from Emirates. I think that is the A380. So the 737 from Transavia also coming in, not visible on flight radar by the looks of it. Okay, there are a few 737s coming in to land from KLM, from Toulouse and from Budapest. Let's turn around the camera for that. So let me quickly have a look at flight radar. This is the 737-700 coming in from Toulouse. It's 11 years old, delivered in May 2011, and behind it is a 737 also 700 coming in from Budapest, and that is 14 years old, delivered in March 2009. Meanwhile, the next 737-700 from KLM just touched down. Okay, up next, an Embraer E190 from KLM coming in from Wrocław, if I pronounced that correctly, in Poland. 11 years old, delivered in January 2012. And I'm looking at flight radar a bit further away. Mostly still narrow bodies, unfortunately. Hello Joe Martin and hello Somil Bandari. Welcome to the stream. All other viewers who have meanwhile joined us, welcome to AMS Live. My name is Boy. We are standing at the Polderbaan. However, not for departures but for landings. Even though the wind is blowing from the northwest, and these planes now land in southern direction with a little bit of tailwind, Schiphol decided to switch it up after having used this runway throughout the day for the departures. If you wind back to the beginning of the stream, you can just about see the last plane of the day take off from this runway, or at least until now. An Airbus A330 to Sint Maarten. It was the last plane to take off. And unfortunately, after that, this runway was only being used for landings. So this is not the most optimal location to capture the landings. Normally speaking, if landings take place on this runway, I will set up my gear further back to the end of the runway where they touch down. The upside of this location is of course that you can see the planes very well because they are taxiing slowly once they reach this part of the runway, and you can follow them until they go to the main platform area. So today turned out to be a little bit different than anticipated beforehand. The plane we see arrive at the moment is a Transavia flight operated by TUI Airlines Belgium, coming in from Naples in Italy. It's Boeing 737-800, 9 years old, delivered in February 2014. And behind it is a KLM 737-800 coming in from Helsinki, Finland, 9 years old, delivered in May 2013. Can we see the next plane already? Well, if I look at my little screen, oh yeah, I think there's number 2 also visible. So it's a bit difficult to see on my little camera screen, only 3 inches big, and the sun is also shining on it, so I have to provide the shade with my face. So although this is a plane from TUI, it is in fact a flight from Transavia. The airplane being illuminated by the sun that has come out in the meantime for as long as it lasts. Looking back to the end of the runway. The next plane just touched down. Another 737. This one from KLM. And K1 about to enter the field of view in the foreground. Bird controller vehicle patrolling day and night to prevent bird strikes from happening as much as possible, of course. Back to the end of the runway, the next plane just touched down. Another KLM 737. Here's a KLM Embraer coming in from Bologna. Definitely keeping up the speed, this one. Still narrow body after narrow body, a bit monotonous unfortunately. The next plane to arrive is an EasyJet A319 coming in from Venice, 12 years old, delivered in September 2010, and behind it is an Embraer 175 from KLM coming from Kristiansand, 5 years old, delivered in July 2017. 2, just about visible in the background. If I go back to the end of the runway, you can see the Embraer just touching down. As the EasyJet is about to turn around the corner, taxi back towards the main platform area. YouTube fan informing us that runway 27 has also opened again for arrivals, as it did earlier this afternoon. There are 2 more planes coming this way in a few moments. The first one is an Embraer 175 from KLM coming in from Birmingham, and that is a 6-year-old plane delivered in January 2017. And it's most likely going to be followed by KLM Flight 960, a Boeing 737-800 coming in from Newcastle. And that is a plane that is 14 years old, delivered in March 2008. We also see British Airways Flight 438 making its way over here. A321 coming in from London Heathrow, 18 years old, delivered in November 2004, and another heavy KLM Flight 686, a 7879 Dreamliner coming in from Mexico City, 5 years old, that one, delivered in January 2018. If I turn around the camera back to the end of the runway, the next plane has become visible. So this is the KLM Embraer 175 coming in from Birmingham. If you just joined the stream, welcome to AMS Live. My name is Boy. We are standing alongside the Polderbaan, currently in use as runway 18 right instead of 36 left. As I was setting up and as I was starting the stream, I was just able to capture the last plane departing for today from this runway. All throughout the day, the runway was in use for departures. However, moments before I was done setting up, Schiphol decided to change the runway configuration and instead use this runway for landings. So we're not at the most optimal location to see the landings take place, although we can see the airplanes taxi very well from over here. Wind is blowing from the northwest. These planes are landing in southern direction, so they have a little bit of tailwind, which is why this configuration is not intuitively the most logical. But the wind is only 4 knots or so, so these planes can handle that bit of tailwind. Otherwise, as you can see, it's cloudy, but the sun is also out occasionally. A few days ago, they were predicting wintry showers for today, but that was only in the morning. Temperature-wise, it's 6 or 7 degrees centigrade, so that's 42 to 44 degrees Fahrenheit. We are expecting precipitation again in the evening and also tomorrow. It's also going to get a bit colder during the week, with mild frost during the nights and temperatures of 5 degrees Celsius or around 40 Fahrenheit, 42. So the next plane to arrive is an A321 from British Airways coming in from London Heathrow, 18 years old, delivered in November 2004, and behind it is a Dreamliner 7879 coming in from Mexico City, KLM flight 686, and that is a 5-year-old plane, was delivered in January 2018. United guy, good morning, good to see another viewer from across the pond. Now folks, if you're liking what you're seeing, even though these are not the departures that were advertised in the title of today's stream, if you are still enjoying yourself and you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel. Not only does it allow you to turn on notifications so that whenever I go live in the future you receive a heads up and you can join us if you have the time and are feeling like it. It also helps me to reach more people like you and me who like content like this. Now, I'm standing in the shade at the moment, but you can see that the sun is brightly illuminating the Airbus from British Airways, although now it's also in the shade. I will make sure to turn back the camera in time to see the Dreamliner behind it land. We've seen more than enough narrow bodies in today's stream. We've had one Queen landing from Suparna Airlines. If you missed it, when I get home after today's stream, I will look up the exact timestamp and put it in the comments so you can easily check it out. Of course, over here where you can see the plane's taxi, I was able to capture nice footage of it when it was landing and taxiing back to the main platform area. But the percentage of heavies today is rather low, unfortunately. This is a very lovely Dreamliner. Little bit of squeaky brakes. These are the same GEnx engines that are also mounted on the 747-800s. Beautiful feats of engineering. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the layout of Schiphol, this runway, the Polderbaan, is the most recent addition to the runway network, if you will. It's the furthest removed from the main platform area. The tower you see in the middle of the screen is the main tower, and it's for control the ATC that controls all the other runways. Because this is a runway so far removed from the main platform area, the runway we are standing at, the Polderbaan, has its dedicated ATC control tower, because if you had to monitor all the planes from over there in the distance, you would need a telescope or something. There's also a dedicated fire station over here. You may have seen it before if you tune in more regularly, but if you're new to the channel and also new to Schiphol, here's the fire station. Typically in the mornings, they do around 3 vehicles back to back around the runway. And if you're setting up here or standing, shooting video, then they will typically sound the horns to greet you. So if you're coming this way and you have small children, in the mornings you might be able to see them. And one of the many 737s from KLM. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to look at flight radar to see where this one is coming from. Suddenly braked. So let me have a look. This one coming in from Madrid, 737-800, 22 years old. And next to land is an Embraer 190 from KLM coming in from London City. Let me turn around the camera so you guys can see it. Touchdown. Coming in from London City and is 10 years old, was delivered in April 2012. It's also in the SkyTeam livery. Just a short flight for this Embraer. Only a few hundred kilometers as the crow flies. SkyTeam, of course, one of the, what should I call it? Networks, if you will, of several airline operators, KLM, Delta, a few more, working together. Star Alliance being the other one. I think Lufthansa is one of the members of Star Alliance. Meanwhile, the next plane has already touched down. Yet another Embraer from KLM in the regular livery. Playing hide and seek behind these boxes. So let me forgo this plane and turn around the camera because there are two planes coming and we can see them already because they have their landing lights on. Can we see the other one? Yeah, in the background. So this seems to be another KLM Embraer, or is it the 737? No, it's an Embraer 175 coming in from Inverness, Scotland. I remember being corrected about that and haven't forgotten since. It's a 5-year-old plane delivered in May 2017, and behind it is an KLM Boeing 737-800 coming in from Edinburgh, 22 years old, delivered in July 2000. Unfortunately, it is narrow body galore at the moment. Has been most of the afternoon. Relatively little wide body heavies that we've seen today. 737 ready to touch down. The next plane already visible in the distance. Which is an Embraer 175 if I recall correctly. Had a quick peek at flight radar, but I didn't have a lot of time. Boeing keeping up the speed. Making sure to vacate the runway in time for the Embraer that's following it. Although it was well in time. Spoilers are still elevated, the flaps are still fully out. We'll probably see them, retract in a few moments. The flaps are moving up already. Always a bit more difficult to see on my little camera screen than on the computer. Michael Kelly asking what's the average taxi time from here to the gate? Well, it depends, of course, on where the gate is that you need to taxi to. If it's on the other side of the platform area, it can be 15 minutes. It also depends on whether you can go along runway 2709 or if you have to go to the south side of the platform and taxi towards the gate. That can also make the taxi time a little bit longer. And in this instance, if you look at flight radar, you will see that the planes that are taxiing, at least to the gates that are located near the Qatar, that's runway 0624, they cannot cross the middle of the three north-south oriented runways where they meet it if they taxi straight ahead from over here. Normally speaking, they could cross the runway over there, and that makes the taxi a little shorter. However, runway 18 center / 36 center, the middle of the three runways, is closed now for maintenance, at least until April. That's at least according to the planning. Which means that the planes that are now coming to land over here first need to taxi up or down the middle of the three north-south oriented runways and go around it instead of being able to cross it where this taxiway that these planes are now all following ends up at. So at the moment the taxi is a bit longer than normally would be the case, but you're looking at a 15-minute taxi typically from over here. I think Polderbaan is one of the furthest removed runways from any platform area of any airport in the world, although I'm not sure if there are other runways that are even further removed from their main platform area. I did try to look it up, see if I can find some data about it, but I wasn't able to. I cannot think of any other airport where there's a runway so far removed from the main area of the airport than Polderbaan is from Schiphol. Meanwhile, it's back-to-back narrow-body action. You can see another Embraer from KLM just vacating the runway. I didn't have time to see where it's from and how old it is. Let me turn around the camera for the next plane. That's a bit bigger than I'm used to. And that is correct because it is a 777-200 from KLM, an ER. KLM flight 744 coming in from Lima. After having flown for almost 12 hours, this is a 16-year-old plane, was delivered in March 2006. So after almost 12 hours, back home. Schiphol also keeping up the speed. A lot of KLM pilots are in a hurry today. And you can see the flaps are retracting at the moment. A warm welcome to everybody who has joined us in the meantime. Welcome to AMS Live. My name is Boy. It's not what it said on the box. I know that I advertised an afternoon of departures. However, last minute Schiphol decided to change the runway usage. All throughout the day this runway was in use for departures. However, as I was setting up, the outbound traffic dried up. If you wind back to the beginning of the stream, you will see the last plane of the day taking off, an A330 to Sint Maarten. After that, it was landings only. Now we're fortunate enough, that's the silver lining, that for now, this runway is the only runway in use for landings. But we've had it twice already this afternoon that runway 27 was also in use for landings. Obviously, this is not the best location to film landing traffic on this runway. Normally speaking, I would be further down the runway. But we are able to see them taxi very well. So that's the upside. About to touch down is an Aeromexico Dreamliner coming in from Mexico City, a 7879, 6 years old, delivered in December 2016 after having flown almost 10 hours and 15 minutes. Let me quickly go back to the camera so you guys can see it as well. Meanwhile, the runway seems to have dried up quite nicely. If you compare with earlier this afternoon, when the thrust reversers were applied, you saw much more spray from the rain we had, the showers we had earlier this morning. For now, it's dry, although cloudy, as you guys can see. We are expecting precipitation again in the evening and overnight. It's also forecasted to become a bit colder. At the moment it's 6 degrees centigrade or roughly 42 degrees Fahrenheit. We are also expecting more wintry showers in the upcoming week. But a few days ago they were also predicting a lot of wintry showers for today, and so far it's only been in the morning, so we'll see. Meanwhile, another KLM in a hurry, coming this way. That's a 737. It'll enter the picture from the left in a minute or so. Meanwhile, if I look at flight radar, I can see another slew of narrow bodies coming this way. An A319 coming in from London Gatwick from British Airways, followed by an A320 from Aer Lingus coming in from Dublin. The British Airways A319, 16 years old, delivered in December 2006. The Aer Lingus A320 number 2, 14 years old, delivered in May 2008. Meanwhile, the British Airways A319 just touched down. And there's the Aer Lingus coming in from Dublin. And behind it is an Embraer E190 coming in from Bristol. And after that, another plane coming in from Dublin. So those two planes probably flew behind each other all the time. The first Dublin airplane from Aer Lingus, and the second one is going to be from KLM. With their shamrock clover on the tail. Always a lovely sight. Meanwhile, next plane about to touch down. Now there is another 777 coming in from Qatar Airways, coming in from Chicago, Qatar Cargo. 6 years old, delivered in January 2017. Probably before it is going to be an Embraer 190 from KLM, coming in from Stuttgart. And that is a 14-year-old plane, delivered in November 2008. Joe Martin, thank you so much for your super chat. Very much appreciated, Mr. Although it's not what I had hoped it would be today, I was looking to give you a stream of departures. We are seeing a lot of landings. And we're awaiting 2 planes. The first one will be the Embraer 190 coming in from Stuttgart. The second one will be the 777 from Qatar Cargo coming in from Chicago. Now here is the Embraer. A short base and final. Can we see the 777 yet? Not on my camera screen. Oh yeah, and over to the left, in the far left, you can see the 777 from Qatar also making its way over here. against a very typical Dutch backdrop of clouds illuminated by the sun. Now, of course, I will turn around the camera in time to see the 777 that's following this Embraer. Although they are nice planes to look at, we've seen plenty of Embraers today and far too few triples and other heavies. We did see the Suparna 747 land earlier during the stream. Once I get home, I will look up the exact time and also put in the timestamp in one of the comments below the stream in case you guys missed it. Makes watching it back more easy. So here's the Qatar Cargo 777 coming in from Chicago. 6 years old, delivered in January 2017 after a 7.5 hour flight coming in from Chicago O'Hare. Behind it is the next plane already, 737-800 from KLM coming in from Manchester. That's a 14-year-old plane delivered in April 2008. Another one of the Schiphol scarecrows in the foreground. The bird controllers patrolling the area 24/7. You can see that when these flaps are fully extended, almost vertical. You can also see the trim of the elevator in landing configuration, so the leading edge pointed downward, automatically generating more upward pressure, making it easier for the pilots to keep the airplane descending at the right speed in low speed conditions. Meanwhile, another KLM 737 has just landed and is also coming this way. You might hear it already. This 777 beautifully illuminated by the sun, which is out at the moment. So it's still narrow body after narrow body that's coming after these airplanes. Not a lot of heavies, unfortunately. Here we have an Aegean A320 or 21 Neo. Keeping up the speed, vacating the runway over here. And Scarecrow passing in front of us. Bird controllers, of course, their official title. So let me have a look at flight radar. I can see nothing but narrow bodies coming this way. So I think I might be doing one more landing and then call it a day. It's not the exciting afternoon I had hoped it would be. Still glad that we were able to capture a lot of planes land, although not at the most optimal location. The sun is out, it's not too cold, so all in all not too bad, but I had hoped we would be able to see another afternoon of departures. It wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. But there's always a next time. And I hope that you guys will join me then, as this Lufthansa Airbus has just touched down. And as this airplane is going to pass us by, I'm already going to say my goodbyes to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that despite the fact that we didn't see any departures, you guys still enjoyed yourselves with the landings that we were witnessing this afternoon. Hope to see you at the next one. If you liked what you saw and you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel. Turn on notifications so that you get a message whenever I go live. And help me reach more people like you and me who also like content like this. And another Embraer with haste will enter our field of view from the left. Don't know what it is with these KLM airplanes, but they are all in a hurry. So once again, I'm going to say my goodbyes for now. Thank you all so much for joining me. Take care. I will see you guys at the next one. And bye for now.